Great morning, Houston. Great morning, downtown, midtown, third ward, and fifth ward. Great morning to you listening in the car at 102.5 FM. Great morning to you that are tapped in through our free KMAZ app. And great morning to you listening on our website at www.amazing1025fm.org. I'm Amanda Sapp here at Amazing 102.5 FM, your do good through good station where we're changing lives one listener at a time. Guys, this month is Second Chance Month. April is Second Chance Month. Actually, it's the last day of Second Chance Month, right?
Yes.
And let me just share a little bit about what Second Chance Month is. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Second Chance Month aims to inform and highlight the many opportunities for state, local, and tribal governments and community-based service providers to build meaningful second chances for people returning from incarceration. You think a month like this is necessary?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me share with our listening audience who I have in the studio with me today. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, great. So this person was formerly incarcerated for 25 consecutive years, now serving his peers and Reentry Resources with Alvin Community College. He is resilient. He's humble. He's a servant. He is Jeffrey Taylor. Great morning.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Glad to have you in our amazing studio. And for this reason, or for what we're talking about today, I guess what better person to have in here than someone who has served as you have in this time. Mr. Taylor, for someone who is just hearing about you for the very first time, tell us a little bit more about you.
So I was incarcerated for 25 years, released in 2018, came home and went through the struggles of finding gainful employment, even with three college degrees and other skills. It was still difficult. Got back into selling cars, and that wasn't fulfilling. So I had to get back and find my way with where I wanted to be. I was making a lot of money selling cars, but I was still kind of empty. So got into reentry, and had been mentoring troubled youth because I was one, and that's where I knew I needed to be.
What did you go to? What were you incarcerated for 25 years for?
Aggravated robbery.
Aggravated robbery. After you've done your time, does it matter what a person has done?
It shouldn't, but it does. There are still systemic discriminations. We can't vote. We can't own our own. It's trouble to get our own housing. We can't own firearms. Education is difficult. Just the job market is definitely discriminatory. So it seems like the system doesn't want us to get back into society and be a contributor, an asset, as opposed to a liability. So a lot of guys go back to crime because after so many struggles and doing a lot of time, first of all, their reacclimation issues coming back. I was, if I may, I can share.
Please, I would love you to share your story.
So when I first got home, I left in 1993 and came home in 2018. I left when there were pages. I came home to an iPhone, and my brother put that in my hand, and it was a completely foreign object. I did not know how to work it. I didn't know nothing. Thank God my brother's in IT, so he helped me navigate that. But I'm still having problems with technology because that wasn't something that was available to me or to most of us incarcerated. Even though I got 3 college degrees inside, that wasn't something that was available. And I was standing in Walmart. This is so embarrassing. I was standing in Walmart.
Don't be embarrassed.
I was in Walmart and at self-checkout and didn't know what to do.
Listen, I know people who haven't been incarcerated who don't know what to do at self-checkout. So I get it. So tell me about the day you got out. What was that like?
Elation. It was surreal. It was very, very humbling because all of my immediate family who stood by me for my entire incarceration was there. My father, my sister, my brothers, my nieces. It was really, really, really a big deal. And it was scary because they put a GPS monitor on me and they gave me 2 hours to get from Huntsville to Houston. Oh, no, they gave me an hour and a half to get from Huntsville to Houston. That included going get cashed a little $50 check that they gave me, to getting some clothes. I couldn't deviate from this route from point A to point B, which was from Huntsville to my house.
So the monitor kind of like, I guess, tracks you.
It tracks
And
you.
if you do go outside, what happens? Like police pulls you over?
No, there's an alert.
I'm not familiar. I'm sorry.
That's okay. There's an alert given to the parole system, whomever you're assigned to as far as a parole officer. That person gets an alert, and sometimes they'll reach out to you. Sometimes they'll just issue a blue warrant, which means to rearrest you on a violation. So that stigmatism was there. That was a really serious mental burden for everybody involved. My family, of course, did not want me to return to prison, so they were doing everything that they could, willing to comply, as was I, so that I wouldn't have a violation. But I had to give an itinerary, a weekly itinerary of my movements, of where I was going, and I had to return. There was no deviation.
So does it almost feel like you're in jail, but not really?
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. It's still a form of incarceration.
Right.
If I went somewhere and I needed to get gas, I couldn't do it. If I needed to take a leak, I couldn't do it.
Do you feel like some people need that type of what's the word I want to use?
Structure?
Yeah.
Restriction?
Immediately coming out. Because you said yourself, I had a pager when I went in. I got a cell phone coming out. There still needs to be some form, and excuse my, the way I put it, there still needs to be some form of hand holding. Right?
I agree with that. So for me, because I have friends who came home and they did as much time as I did, and they weren't put on such restrictions as I was. So it was easier for them to move around. Whereas I think it was better for me because I now have the freedoms and am more in a better productive place than they are, or as productive. Whereas everybody's got their own journey. So it's an individual thing, I think. Some people may need it, some people may not. I needed it.
Immediately getting out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't need it to be so restricted where I couldn't stop and use the bathroom or get gas. That's a little bit overboard.
Are you reformed?
I'm rehabilitated. And that's
what's the difference?
Reformed means to go back to what you were. For me, rehabilitation means, even though the word re indicates that you're going back to something, there's a part of me that no longer exists. The criminal mind, the way I thought, the people I wanted to be around, the things that I wanted to do, understanding the big picture of criminal behavior and how it impacts everybody. Just not people who think that they're not, or people who are involved, but people who think that they're not involved or affected by criminal behavior. I understood that. I understood me better. So that was the first thing that I needed to do, was get to know me better. And then getting to know myself better, it made me more aware of the need for me to grow and mature, emotionally and mentally.
Were there any spiritual?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What'd you do? Like what kind of?
So before, I've been exposed to and practiced different faiths. I was raised Baptist for part of my life and Catholic for a part of my life, and was exposed to Jehovah's Witnesses who were in my family. Had friends who were Buddhist. I was even a Muslim, practiced Islam at one time, and I had an experience with God where the truth of who He is and who Jesus Christ was and still is changed me, stopped me from smoking cigarettes. I had a habit of smoking cigarettes for 21 years, from 8 to 29. I started doing drugs I started smoking weed when I was 8. Started drinking when I was 8.
8 years old. What is an 8-year-old doing I can imagine. Where you come from?
Hanging out with older people in Fifth Ward in South Park, where I grew up.
Curious, and he's just like.
Well, I had an uncle who was that influence. May he rest in peace. He just passed away. He passed away as a addicted to crack, homeless, living under a bridge. So that was the person that was most influential. I was in a broken home, being raised by a father who was not prepared, but wanted to raise his children, myself and my sister. But he was too, I want to say, I should be honest and say he was not mature, and he didn't have a good example of what a man should do in raising a child or children. The old school way is children should be seen and not heard. Men, my daddy was a football player, and he was a lead singer of a group that was affiliated with Archie Bell and the Drells way back in the day, TSU Toronados. And so my father had a lot of promiscuity going on.
He was a Rolling Stone. I'm just teasing you, okay?
He was worse. He was way worse. So it was hard for him to show that responsibility and be the responsible person he needed to be, because he wasn't prepared for that. So he pretty much pushed my mother away with his promiscuity. And so my uncle was the person who helped him in his absence, his younger brother. 7 years difference. He's 15, I'm 8.
Yeah, both kids.
Yeah. And so we're doing what we do. I'm selling marijuana at school. I'm smoking marijuana. So I never knew that when you asked me about the difference between rehabilitation
and reform
and reformation, I never knew how to process information. I never learned that. I never understood the work ethic and the responsibility that's necessary to be a man. So I took that through high school, military, coming home, traveling, still criminally minded.
So now you are with
one of the colleges,
Alvin Community College.
One of the colleges I got a degree with while I was inside.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
What did you learn about yourself going through this process and being released and then becoming a part of, this college that you learned from? You came back and now begin educating or helping other
I think
youth.
I've learned that there's a lot of spirituality going on with us, for us who belong to God, where he will take us full circle. Like he was preparing me for this while I was inside, but I didn't know I was being prepared for this. If that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
So, when God's preparing us for something, we don't see the end. We just understand the struggle, if we do, and the trials and the tribulations, the lows, the disappointments, the loneliness, the hardships, the disparity, all of the things that make us into good people when we go through things, all of the things that I went through, besides being wrongfully convicted. Yes, that's a whole nother component of, yes. But it wasn't, this is the thing though, it wasn't man. God just used man to do it. It was him all along. It was, I'm honestly saying it was him all along, because I needed that experience to become the person I am today, the man that I am today.
Why wouldn't you have this resentment towards God? If you were wrongfully convicted.
I did for a while. Met God, served him, was let down because the trial was intentionally by the judge. There was a conspiracy between the judge and the DA. This is no fabrication either. I'm telling the absolute truth. There was a conspiracy between the judge and the DA to give me a life sentence, which they did. I had a second trial. In that trial, the person who perjured himself on the witness stand was an incentivized informant. He did it again when he was told by the higher court. The DA, the trial court, was told they couldn't use the same information that they used, violating my constitutional right, my statutory right, my procedural rights, to convict me again. But they did. So, and this is the funny thing. So the DA and the judge, the DA's name at the time was Kelly Siegler. Kelly Siegler was famous in Houston. She went on to have a show called Cold Justice on TNT. She told me, my father, and my uncle, if I didn't take a plea bargain that she was offering, she was going to give me a life sentence. And I didn't take it because the plea bargain included snitching on somebody that had already pleaded guilty to the crime, because it wasn't aggravated robbery, it was capital murder. It was a drug deal, went bad, and in that drug deal, somebody was killed that I didn't kill. The person who took me to do the drug deal, gun for weapons, weapons for drugs, killed the person, I didn't know it. So, there's a whole lot of spiritual stuff going on that even from then, that led me to the position of being in the position of false incarceration, wrongful incarceration. Again, all God.
Sounds like a movie.
That's all true too. And the funny part is, even when I went back for the second trial and I was supposed to have been released on bond, my attorney, Charles Freeman, a friend of the family who's now deceased, may he rest in peace as well, he took the money as part of his fee that was given to him for me to make bail. So I didn't get out. So, and I'm thinking it's no big deal. And then they convicted me again, and that's when I was really pissed off at God. And I went back and turned my back on God and went through a bitter phase, and God kept showing me that I was Joseph, and that there was a bigger purpose for my life than just what I thought I needed at the time, which was immediate release. So I went through all of the hardships. I went through all of the things, exhausted my appellate process. I was on direct appeal for 10 years. For any of you listeners who knows anything about the appellate process, it never lasts for direct appeal, never lasts for 10 years. So
what's the average time?
A year or two.
Got it.
Maybe 3.
Why do you think for you it lasted so long?
So many variables that were important, significant. The judge died prior to me going back, and I didn't complete the thought of why, the significance of why I mentioned the DA and the judge. They told me I would go back on appeal and they wouldn't contest my release, because they knew my attorney was good enough to preserve what's called reversible error, so I could go back on appeal. But they told me they wouldn't contest it. Well, just prior to me coming back to Houston, the judge died, which meant that was all, because there's a new judge now. So the judge died.
It was like starting over again.
Yeah, and it was an unexpected death. And then because the judge died, then there was a new DA appointed, judge named Belinda Hill, who was appointed by George Bush at the time, the governor. This is people have told me to write a book.
Hey, you remember that there was this episode, the scene on Life, when he was about to get out and the man went to the restroom.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I do. And I had not that kind of experience, but similar experiences where I know I'm going home.
Yeah, you getting ready. You got to.
I'm making plans on what job I'm gonna take.
Yeah.
Clothes I need to buy because I have no clothes anymore.
Sure.
Hygiene items and things. I'm processing information on how I'm going to get back into society and be an asset in the tours. And it was funny.
Every time you take a step forward to prepare to get out, here comes this big enemy from wherever, or at least maybe it wasn't an enemy. Maybe it was just like not my time, not your time yet, my child, or whatever. I don't know.
I think that's more appropriate than the enemy. I think it was not my time, because when I came up for parole the first time, most people who can afford to hire a parole attorney, which increases the opportunity for them to be released. The better the parole attorney, the better the odds are in the person who's being considered for parole to be released. My brother and my family and I, we were in the process of hiring a parole attorney. I had met her as a veteran, as a veterans incarcerated organization on the Ramsey unit where I was. I met this parole attorney, Mary Simon. We were going to hire her. We were in conversation with her, about hiring her, and God gave me the scripture.
What was the scripture? Revelation
3:7. I open doors nobody can close, and I close doors nobody can open. And I told my brother, we're not going to hire nobody. I'm going to trust God with my freedom. This is what he told me. I'm going to do it. And I trusted him, and he did it, because it was that time. It was my time. And honestly, I have no regrets about or any bitterness about my incarceration. I actually grateful, because it molded me. It shaped me. It made me a person really acquainted with myself, but more of a servant. Now I don't take, I give.
When you run into these young people who come to Alvin Community College, what have they experienced where you relate so well that they even stay in school? Because I know that's the hardest thing. You know, as troubled, if you're, and excuse my description, if you're a troubled youth or something like that, and you're trying to get an education, maintaining, staying in school, and all of that. Sometimes it's just hard to do it, because life, like everybody says, it life be lifing. But where do you come in to kind of bridge the gap between trouble and a better way?
So troubled youth I deal with is not anything that deals with Alvin. This is something I do as a volunteer. The program that I do with Alvin is for people who've been incarcerated, and once they're released, even some prior to release, we help them with job readiness, resume writing, food, clothing, all of the resources necessary to make the transition, even a stipend that's available for. There's a series of videos that needs to be watched, because this is a funded program, a grant funded program that's a joint effort between Workforce Solutions and the grant given to us at Alvin. So it's, if you haven't been incarcerated with a TDCJ number, then you don't qualify for our program. And it's specifically for us. And so the grant will end in, I think, November. And then, so we're putting things in place right now so that we can continue to provide these services. Hopefully, maybe through the college, but if not through the college, then other resources that we want to continue to provide, because this is much needed.
What are some success stories that you witnessed with people coming to be a part of the program?
Oh, a lot of them get gainful employment. That's what I do. I help them get employment. We have second chance employers who are willing to give us an opportunity, because the opportunities are few and far between. But what people don't realize is when guys like myself and many other guys that I know out here, I'm not an anomaly. There's a whole lot of us out here who are really doing a lot of good. When we've made up our mind to do right, then we're good workers. I mean, I worked for 25 years for $0. So for free. So, you know, when people work for free and they can earn a living, you think they're not going to work hard? And I've done all kinds of jobs in the penitentiary, from washing clothes to scrubbing pots to serving officers to working in education with the library and working in the infirmary with sick people dying from AIDS and cancer. So, you know, all of those things serve when you see the position you're working in, it would earn someone $50,000 to $75,000 a year, and you're doing it for nothing. Yeah. So you come home and you're so willing to work for a paycheck.
Y'all gonna pay me for this?
Yeah, for real.
I've got Jeffrey Taylor in the building with us today. He's with Alvin Community College.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you are recently released, or are you in,
if you've been incarcerated,
if you've been incarcerated,
and you have a TDCJ number, whether it's recent or not.
How recent though? Like if they were in TDCJ, and maybe it's been 5 years.
It's okay.
It don't
as long
matter.
as you have a number.
They can come to you and get support or find support.
And there's a whole team of us, and the entire team. One of my colleagues he's been incarcerated, and this is another crazy thing. We were incarcerated together and on the same wing. We played chess together. His name is Paresh Patel. He was incarcerated 29 and a half years. And we worked together in this program, serving people that a lot of come home that we did time with. So it's really special. And then the other two people who work in this space with us, they're very passionate about helping people. Very passionate about helping people.
This is a very interesting story, and I didn't realize I was talking to you as long as I have been this morning, and and we do have to wrap this interview up. I mean, I can see the resilience because I'd have been so angry. I mean, I guess you can only be so angry for so long, but you know,
it's poisonous to your soul.
It is. Anger is poison to your soul.
Yeah. You're a very happy person. You have a very good aura. You're a very positive person. So, and that draws other people to you because people want to be around people who are happy. There's a lot of negativity inside, and I did my best to stay away from it because it's toxic. It's really toxic. You know, you go to somebody happy, and when you leave them because they're so negative and pessimistic, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's draining.
Yeah, it's draining. Yeah. But when you're around somebody who's positive, it's uplifting, it's encouraging, it's motivating. Like when I leave this interview, I'm going to be happy and good for my day.
Are you going to think about that life scene I just told you about? He was getting ready to get out. And the judge died on the toilet.
Ain't that so?
It is.
Yeah.
That happened to you. Not particularly with that, but
no.
How many times would you say you was about to get out and something happened?
Twice. 3 times.
That's 3 times too many for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was this close.
Yeah.
But it wasn't time. It wasn't time.
For anyone who is listening to this story today, or hearing your voice today, what would you say to them? They're 2 people. The person who is currently, going down a path they know good and well they shouldn't be going through. And then there's someone who is trying to get out of it. What would you say to both of those people today?
For the person going down the path, some things may be beyond your control. Like if you're fighting and you're trying and nothing is working, you're probably fighting against God. And he's gonna get his way eventually anyway. So you're gonna have to go through whatever it is that you're going through. And even after the understanding and the knowledge of who God is, you're still gonna go through it, probably even more. So embrace whatever lessons. Don't run from the lessons. Embrace the lessons that God is trying to teach you so that he can take you to the next level. And for the person who's doing their best to live a criminal life, it's fruitless, it's empty, it's destructive, and it's only a matter of time before it gets the best of you and you're no longer with us, or you make it out, but you end up incarcerated, or worse.
Jeffrey Taylor, we've got to wrap this interview up. We'd like to leave fans, followers, listeners, and supporters with something inspiring, something empowering, something they can take with them the rest of the day, the rest of the weekend, all the way up to the weekend. What do you want to leave us with today?
That even when it looks like it's its worst, there's a purpose. God has a purpose, and he's trying to push us to our purpose. the purpose of why he created us. We all have a purpose, and don't fight that purpose, because in that purpose is your fulfillment. In that purpose is your success. I get the opportunity to go speak to millionaires and share what I'm sharing with you. Just left Dallas last week speaking to a whole group of financial wizards. These people are very successful, and they keep inviting me back to speak with them, to speak to them, to learn from them. It's amazing, because in your purpose is your success.
Those things almost like it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
When it's really not just doing anything, but
it seems that way.
Yeah.
Because there was a whole process, and that's another thing. Don't ever skip the process, because the process is necessary. Because if you skip the process, you're just going to go back and revisit it anyway, because the process is necessary. But once you go through the process, then you understand that it's necessary for your success building. Whatever your definition of success is, my definition is just first peace with myself and with God and with my family, and then helping others. That's the most fulfilling thing I can do, is help others. When I see genuine gratitude and hear it in their voices, that's worth more than any amount of money.
How do we find you, sir?
I have a number you can call, 713-487-9931, or you can reach me at either one of these email addresses: jtaylor@alvincollege.edu or sirjsco@gmail.com.
Who needs to get in touch with you?
Anybody who needs help. Troubled youth, definitely. Because I know there's not just me, there's a whole community of us who want to help, who've been where. I got some friends, we ride motorcycles together. I got some friends who were gang members. I got friends who were square as a box, just went to the streets. So I have people in all races as well. It's just not, there's a lot of segregation and separation in the penitentiary, a lot of gangs, racial gangs, so on and so forth. But God's purpose is for us. We all have strengths and weaknesses beyond color barriers.
If you are someone who is looking for support, you have a troubled youth that you know of that could use some support, or anyone who is coming out of or has come out of TDCJ, right?
That don't roll off you, because
it doesn't,
because you don't like that.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's offensive to your soul.
It is offensive to my soul.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
Yeah,
but I because I know people. I have friends who've come out of this, and it's like just that whole process of being in there and then making phone calls and can you send me this? It's tiring to the other person.
It is, because you're doing time with that person.
You're doing time with that person.
You are, absolutely.
This is good. Jeffrey Taylor, thank you for being my guest here today on the Amanda Sapp Morning Show. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
In spite of all the other stuff that was trying to keep
you made it.